Okie dokie.
You can never sleep in traffic.
Oh, just milk tea. Milk tea without the milk.
I know 'cause I try acid. Now I see through your habits, just like gadgets. You tell me with the two hands, I'm too bad. Wonder what your things are like. Need me to get your
Hey guys. Happy Sunday. I know there's a box over my face. Well, welcome to Charlotte's Stream. Today you could see we have like a new user interface. The show is now called Technical with Sharlit Elise. This is a tech podcast. And I'm missing a frame. Okay. Well, anyways, yeah. So this is a tech podcast, and every week we talk about the trending topics within tech, within science, and a little bit games every once in a while. This is an interactive show, so I encourage you to voice your opinions in chat. I tried to pick topics that are impactful, interesting, fun. Hi, Capo. Thank you for the 8 months sub. Thank you so much. I appreciate your support. Happy Sunday. Yeah, so this show, if you've been following, is also on YouTube. It's on Spotify, and it will go to Apple Podcasts as soon as Apple lets me make an account. Yeah, I don't know. It's like I texted them the code, and then they're like, it just doesn't work. Originally you came to watch me play Bannerlord. Didn't know you'd be sticking around for this long. Aw, I appreciate that. No, I really do. For those who are like not familiar with me, I do a lot of gaming, a lot, a lot of gaming. But every Sunday, 1 p.m. Eastern time, we do a show on tech. So today we have basically the same format that we've been doing, and we're already on episode 7. Yeah, that's 7 weeks of tech coverage. But the whole show has gone through a facelift, and I've been working really hard on designing it, and I like a more simplistic, minimalistic look to my designs. So you're gonna kind of see that. The title here, Technical with Sharlit Elise, is gonna stay. The logo, though, I'm thinking about changing it up. I kind of want to do an X. I'm not kidding. It has nothing to do with Elon Musk. Nothing. My merch has X's on the back of the shirts, okay? I had it long before Mr. Musk. You could tell by the apartment. You could tell I'm into minimalism by the apartment behind me. Yeah, the very realistic apartment behind me. Check out this chair with no shadows. I mean, I'm using a green screen if you hadn't noticed. But yeah, thank you for the appreciation. So before we get into the main topics today, I just want to talk about a few highlights of the week. I need to make a frame for this. Do I have a thing? Okay, I'm not gonna mess with it. All right, yeah, let's talk about it. So, like because of all the air pollution and in the United States and basically across the world, the U.S. has started create a budget for combating CO2 emissions. So they're like building 2 facilities in the US that are basically giant air filters. You know, like the ones you have in your room or living room, like that, except a whole buildings perhaps. Like it's a facility. So, um, yeah, and they're gonna like combat like air pollution. This is the only apartment Charlotte streams from. She has a mansion in Long Island. I wish you could see through the matrix. I really like how it looks, honestly. So I'm going to keep it probably for a long term. But yeah, so going back to the news, the U.S. has spent $1.2 billion on tackling like CO2, which I think is really nice. Over the course of a year, 2 million metric tons of carbon monoxide is going to be is going to be, let's see, purged. I guess I don't really know the details. They're still kind of working it out, but that's the budget. I don't know how they're going to dispose of all this, all these filters or whatever the processes they use. But yeah, like over the course of a year, it basically negates 465,000 car emissions over the course of a year. So it's not bad. I mean, if we're gonna like deal with this pollution bit, I think a lot of countries are gonna have to have like filters, filtration facilities throughout the world, or tax dollars at work. Yeah, for once at work. You know what I really miss? I miss seeing stars. I don't know about you. I don't know where you live, but I don't see stars anymore. I only see, well, darkness at night. And that's like something I miss. When I was younger, I would look up and I'd be like, ooh, stars. I never thought I'd miss it. Let me turn on the fan. It's getting hot. Okie dokes. We had frequent blackouts last winter. Could see all the stars. Living near a city equals no stars. Do you think that's the case? I never thought of that. I always thought it was a pollution thing. Blame Elon. Blame Elon. If Elon didn't fail so many rocket launches, we'd be all right. We'd be less polluted. Can I say? Hit him where it hurts. Speaking of Elon, well, not really. But New York City is going to ban TikTok from government devices. There's a lot more junk because of Elon. Probably a combo of bright lights and pollution. Light pollution, right? Yeah. Yeah. It's Rom says it's a real problem for astronomers. For sure. I mean, I'm sure they have something that could like zoom past it, right? It's just our eyeballs aren't on the same level. So in other news, New York City is going to ban TikTok from government devices. So if you're one of the few that are blessed to have your own work device, you know you shouldn't be installing social medias on it unless you know that's your job, right? You shouldn't be installing games on your phone, on your laptops, unless that's your job. You know, Discord, you might be able to argue if your company used Discord, but I don't know. I know gaming companies use Discord and other companies use Slack, but yeah, I had games. I had games on my computer because it was a part of my work. It's esports. But yeah. So like, they're banning TikTok because honestly, TikTok is Um, we still don't really trust like TikTok and how they track data, and it's really invasive. So the government's like, hey, it's a government device. We don't want anyone snooping around. So they're forcing people to uninstall their stuff. I just don't understand. Do you need TikTok on your laptop? Pine Fellow says ban TikTok altogether. Um, yeah, perhaps. I mean, it's still like the number one social, right? Like it's still booming. Here's the thing, right? You could tell that TikTok is like dominating. Not just from other metrics and stuff, but like you ever watch like a YouTube short? You notice that the TikTok logo is in there because people are posting to TikTok first and then recycling it to the other medias. Yeah. But what will teenagers do during the boring family reunions? Um, I don't know. Enjoy family, which I totally get it. Not all family is great. But there's got to be some more productive. Kepu says, I'm proud to say that I don't use TikTok. I have a TikTok, by the way. You could check it out in the links below the video, but it was only for gaming. I did it for a while. Yeah, like originally my content was going to focus more on gaming, and I just thought like I do enough gaming, let's do something different, do some tech. I tried once, it bored me, never used it again. I mean, it is like one of the social medias that have stuck for a long time. So I remember like they had like Vine lasted like how long? Snapchat is like basically used for other things, if you know what I mean. Like I don't think anyone really uses Snapchat the way they intend to use it. Like they're selling snaps. Yeah. So anyways, yeah. Don't spy on the US. Delete your TikTok from your government-owned tech. They didn't say anything about uninstalling other apps, so I guess go install some Diablo 4 on your company laptop. Wait, Snapchat? You're not familiar with how they use it? People sell, because Snapchat was the first self-destructing social media platform. So any messages you send will self-destruct. Any posts you send will self-destruct. And since then, Instagram copied like, destructible things in the form of shorts. So people sell videos on Snapchat. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. If you don't know, then you're probably not old enough to watch the stream. I mean, honestly, don't remind me to walk. Honestly, I feel like even like 10-year-olds know what Snapchat's for. Zuckerberg steals everything. Yeah. He's like the Blizzard of social media. Copy and paste, but refine. Except for Facebook. I never liked Facebook. Anyways, our third highlight of the week, not our main story, but you know how we have more electric vehicles, and we were like in a state of using gas only, and when electric vehicles started becoming adopted, there were concerns about production and how efficient everything was. And when I think we're in an age where we didn't master EV, but we do have a lot more EV coming. And like the news article I talked about like 2 weeks ago or so, California is forcing all car sales to be electric from now on, from this point forward. In fact, Cali is like always like on the cutting edge, Silicon Valley and all, but like always on a cutting edge of these new like adaptations. So yeah, like a lot of people have electric vehicles, and there are some in New York. Turbulent Solace says in chat, I will never buy an electric vehicle. Then you're gonna have to like go like to the black market, like go underground, and then buy your gas powered car. Then you're gonna have to like smuggle gas. I mean, in the future, I mean, now it's still fine, but give it like 15 years. I mean, I know people appreciate gas like powered cars, right? But it's gonna be tough. I think the UK deadline is 2026 for EV. Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited about it. I like minimalistic, right? So that means I like less noise pollution. I like less exhaust pollution. But here's the thing. We have EV and everyone's adopting it. But the one thing that's bottlenecking high adaptation rates right now compared to every other month, every other time frame is that we don't have enough charging stations, at least publicly. The public charging stations throughout the states are, they vary in quality, right? So if you don't have an electric vehicle, it could take you from 15 minutes to like 40 minutes to charge your car, depending on the quality of the charger. Funnily enough, Tesla supercharger, those stations, the Tesla supercharger stations are the fastest ones out there. And there's tons of lines because no one wants to spend 40 minutes to charge their car, right? So if you can't charge at home, then you have to go out to charge your car, or if you're on a road trip or you just need to like jump your car, like boost it up, so it's not too low, then you're going to spend like 20-30 minutes charging your car. As opposed to gas vehicles, it's like 5 minutes at the pump, fill it up and then you go. But with this, it takes time. Now, there are parking facilities throughout the states that have electric EV charging stations. So you can park there and then you can also pay for the charge, but you could just leave your car charging while you shop, while you go around. So that works. But there is a huge amount of people that are, or increasing amount of people that are going to charging stations and leaving without charging their car. Because honestly, the lines are too long. They have to wait 40 minutes for one car to finish charging. Like if you get a charging station outside your home and you waited like 20 minutes, you're not going to charge for 5. You're going to charge for 20 minutes. You might top off. Like these are the things that are limiting EV adaptation. Let's see. Let me keep up with chat. Can everyone in Cali afford EV? Why pay more money for electric vehicles, especially when you have to rebuy the batteries again at one point? What a scam. That is true too. Batteries, there's like depreciating values. So in order to maximize a battery, you have to keep it around 50%. Right? That's the best spot for a battery. You keep it too low, the chemical imbalance messes it up. You keep it too high, chemical imbalance messes it up. So it is expensive. The people won't accept it, says Turbulent Solace. Pinefellow says, a friend of mine has an EV, he's only complaining about it. There needs to be better battery technology, for sure, but just like a cell phone, they probably could make it better. But they want you to cycle, cars, cycle your tech. So with EVs becoming like a EV batteries become a problem, then perhaps, like, I don't know. We're still basically Gen 1 for electric vehicles, you know, publicly, right? So it's like we don't know how long, or I have not looked up how long these batteries last. Like, what's the life cycle, you know? So Turbulent Saw says EVs don't reduce pollution. Rather, they shift the pollution to the electric generation facilities. Our power grids can't even support everyone with an EV, which is true. A lot of those, when we're talking about cell phones, right? You know how cell phone manufacturers are like, oh, we're not going to package a charging brick because that's just more pollution for the world. In some way, you can say that is true, but one, right? You're not doing it because you care about pollution. You're doing it because you're saving money. And two, you're offsetting the people who pollute to someone else. You're putting that responsibility on someone else. So if I buy a new phone and I'm expected to use a last gen charger that's not fast charging, I have to buy my own charger, right? So that means I spend more money. And then I have to buy from a third party with additional packaging. And then not to mention the shipping box, right? If you buy a charger, you're going to get the charger, you're going to get a box for it, and then you're going to get the box inside a shipping box. So it's actually multiplying the pollution. But their agenda is to save money, and that's the narrative they're pushing out to people. I don't think EVs can work out in the US with the extreme distances you have. I don't see it. I mean, they need to put more charging stations. So we'll see. I mean, if you have a plot of land and you offer it up like to support a charging station, you could probably rake in income, you know. But I don't know how it exactly works. Like, it could just be like a McDonald's. You have a franchise, right? And all you do is like follow the instructions of the parent company, and then you just run your charging station. Best you could get is 1,000 cycles in lithium ion phosphate batteries. This is where it goes down to 80%. Rom says. Turbulence all says, doesn't the US not even have readily access to lithium? If I recall correctly, I believe that China owns most of the land where lithium is mined. That becomes a national security issue. I don't think it would become a national security issue. Like, if you're buying the raw materials, you could like kind of vet all that stuff. You know, potentially. But anyways, yeah. So EV's kind of cool. I still am looking forward to it, but I'm not looking forward to it in terms of the pollution aspect. More like the noise pollution will be down. And honestly, I don't ever want to have to touch a steering wheel again, except in video games. All right, guys. So that's just the highlight topics. The main topics for today is this. Boom. The first topic is New York Times lawsuit threatens to wipe ChatGPT. Yeah. We'll talk about that in a moment. After that, we want this AI to hallucinate. If you know about AI hallucinations, then you know what I'm talking about. Otherwise, you're going to have to wait to the topic. And lastly, provider uses confusion. It is super effective. As I said, this is an interactive show, so you guys are interacting in chat. If you're not live, feel free to leave comments in the comments section and all that. Let's get into our first topic. New York Times lawsuit threatens to wipe ChatGPT. Oh. So there's a lot of talk. We've been doing a lot of talk on AI. We've been doing a lot of talk on, AI learning and stuff. Turbulent Solace in chat says, very nice graphics effects. Thank you. We're working on it. We're working on it. Well, I'm working on it. Yeah, I kind of like the color scheme. We're going to redo the logo and all. And I plan to animate a little bit more in terms of the pages and all. But anyways, yeah. So what happened? Earlier this month, the New York Times has updated their terms of service to prohibit scraping of its articles for AI training purposes. So, you know, ChatGPT. How did an AI get this smart? Well, through data scraping. And after the AI has developed to a certain degree, right, you're seeing it being implemented for monetization purposes, right? Companies are making money off of the AI now. Look at Microsoft buying OpenAI's ChatGPT 4. And now it is serving as the primary search assistant that you see in Bing search. So, but before we get into all that, what is data scraping? Data scraping is essentially extracting data from output generated by another program. For example, if you make a social media post, that is an output of the program. And data scraping is collecting that post, the information regarding that post, and utilizing it for its own programming services. So the data for ChatGPT is collected by a bot called GPT bot. It's a user agent that goes around the internet and just pulls data, collects data, and keeps a log and generates all this data and pushes it forward to the neural networks behind OpenAI's infrastructure. So this process is called unsupervised learning. So that's when web data is pushed into networks and it allows the AI to gain a conceptual sense of language, right? Language being, you know, all the text that we write, all the blog posts, all the news articles, and then analyzing the relationship of the words. That's how babies learn, in a sense, right? They start to see a certain pattern in how we speak. And through that, they start to learn how to speak and talk to us, right? So the AI is doing the same thing. Now, data scraping is legal, right? Because data scraping, essentially in its most primitive form, is going to a website and reading. But it brings up the argument of consent because content is made for people, not for a program to read. Not exactly. So while it is still legal, companies are not consenting to it. So what happens? The New York Times says that OpenAI's ChatGPT could use the content that is scraped to become a competitor to their news work. So to exemplify that, if the New York Times talks about an article that is about a forest fire, well, with the scraping AI, they could collect that information. And when users go online to look for that data, look for the news, they have the option of going to a New York Times website, or they could just ask their AI, right? The ChatGPT AI. And as we get more accustomed to going to one source for all the information we need, there's no purpose, there's no great reason to go to a specific website. right? Eventually, it's just more convenient for users to use the AI to ask questions. And that's what the New York Times is talking about. And if you're, and actually, I didn't even address this. The New York Times is a newspaper in the States, if you're not familiar. Rom Hook says, how can someone even sue AI? I guess they're actually suing its devs. Tierberos in chat says, basically what New York Times is saying is we can't make anything compelling enough that people would actually want to choose us over a fucking program. Is it true? I mean, you could say that, but if the AI can always match you, no matter how good you are, then can you actually beat an AI? Can you beat an AI in a writing contest? Basically, you can't beat it in speed, right? Let take this for example. What if there's two newspapers? They're both covering the same topic, right? One newspaper is like, I got it. Here's the article. And the second newspaper is struggling to get the article out in time, right? Let's say there's an hour difference. If the AI can scrape off the first one, they can pump out the article before the second one even has a chance, right? So unless you're the very best, you're not going to be able to match up with the AI. Meaning it's always going to be the second best competitor amongst the news sites rankings. I say newspaper because I know New York Times is like a newspaper because I'm in New York, and yeah, I mean, I don't even do like online news like that anymore. It's too much misinformation. Don't want the AI to win, get good. Isn't OpenAI going to bust? Tibero says, I feel like this is a skill issue, Charlotte. Whining won't help their sinking boat. Either get better shipmasters or sink. You know, perhaps. But it is pretty easy to copy pasta. I'm just saying, Control C can do many a things. Yeah, so ultimately users may turn to the AI for their news, right? And in fact, the AI is good at summarizing the news. So maybe the writers at whatever publication has all the details, but if a user doesn't care for all those details and an AI can summarize it, and you could do that with like a prompt, then perhaps they're not going to go to the publication. I mean, come on. Who goes to OpenAI for news? Freaking some people would. Some people will eventually go there for news. This is an existential crisis for the New York Times. So if an AI copies a news article but rewords it and spits it out for people to read, how do we differentiate between responses that came from training on copyrighted works or someone else summarizing a story? Right? So the problem is that the New York Times does not like the AI training on it, on their work. And if the AI is going to train on that work, they're going to copy a lot of the language, but also, sorry, sneeze. Also like mix up the language. And at that point, how do we tell it was not written by a human anymore? You know, how do we tell if it's written by AI? So this is not exclusive to AI. This is plagiarism 101. Like, we have been dealing with copyrighted issues for like decades, centuries. I don't know, 2 centuries. When did the copyright system come up? Um, but you know, this whole thing, honestly, is very similar to another story we covered. Back in episode 2, Photoshop has an AI called Firefly. And what Firefly did or is going to do, need to check up on that news, but they copy the art that was submitted to Photoshop's stock image program. So users would be like, hey, I took this great photo. I'm going to sell it to Photoshop for them to use for licensing. All right. And then the photographer makes $5 and gets royalties as the photo is being sold more and more. Sure. But without the permission of the artists, of the photographers, they took their AI and they trained it on the existing photos in their stock library. A lot of people are upset about that because basically the AI can remix those images and become a competitor to the artists themselves. Anyways, this whole thing is an existential reflex, and the New York Times changed their terms of service to address AIs specifically. Whoops, I moved it. Oh, hold on. Non-commercial use does not include the use of content without prior written consent from the New York Times Company in connection with the development of any software program, including but not limited to training a machine learning or artificial intelligence AI system, or providing archived or cached data sets containing content to another person or entity. Essentially, they need consent. If they're going to use AI to scrape data, they need consent. And that's what this whole update to the terms of service includes. They go on by going into section 4.1. Without New York Times prior written consent, you shall not use robots, spiders, scripts, service, software, or any manual or automatic device, tool, or process designed to data mine or scrape the content, data or information from the services, or otherwise use, access, or collect the content, data, or information from the services using automated means. This addresses specifically ChatGPT and its bot that scrapes the website for data. What's a spider? I do not know what a spider is. I've never heard of spider, but it's got to be like some crawler. Let's see. Let's see what you said. Rom says, looks like it's an even bigger problem for writers. Yeah. I mean, a lot of jobs. We covered in our other shows, we covered actors being replaced by CGI, right? Using AI to copy their whole person and plug them into a movie. Writers are definitely gone. There has been websites. There have been websites, I believe. Yeah, I'm not gonna say if I'm not sure. There's this website that has been around for a long time, and they basically fired all their writers, and they replaced them with AI, and the AI articles are garbage in its current state. And then they recently just deleted all their articles. Tibero says, I mean, that's what selling your product is, right? And as for artists, if someone chooses the AI generate photo instead of your actual work, then they don't really care that much. That is true. You can say it's similar to it's like preferences, right? Do you want a human generated image or do you want an AI generated image? Sometimes the artwork is so close that users would choose the human one just because they're helping someone else. Or they could choose the AI one, which chances are will be cheaper. So that's like something to consider. So it's not like human art and human writing is going to be completely gone, but it's definitely going to be left to more charitable resources to support them. And that's not comfortable for any artist. I get that. Kepu says, by the way, have you tried GPT-4 yet? Probably asked that, but I forgot the answer. No, not in particular. I haven't gone to a full extent. They have GPT-4 on the mobile, but I think there's like a subscription, from what I hear. I haven't looked into it. I'm just like, for me, AI is when I need it, I'll use it. I'm not against it. I am kind of for it, but it's not like if I don't need to use it, I'm not going to go out of my way to like tinker with it. Is $23 a month? Yeah, forget that. I don't even have Netflix. Okay. I'm not gonna get AI. I don't even have Netflix right now. So maybe after Netflix, I'll think about getting GPT-4. Such a big difference between 3.5 and 4, for sure. That's why I've been hearing. Okay, so if we cannot tell the difference between AI generated content and human created content, then are we to assume they plagiarize the work if they have collected, or if a percent of the text matches the original work? Because you can paraphrase things, you can summarize things, but this is where copyright lawyers will honestly, right now, your best bet is to be a copyright lawyer. This is where you get all the jobs right now. That's where all employment went to, because every company is trying to ban AI from copying their content, and they're looking to sue someone for any damages they sustained. Kepu says, there's a channel on Twitch that has an animated Jesus AI that answers questions from viewers. Yeah, I've heard of that. Kind of interesting for sure. I guess that's the newest evolution. Remember, I don't know if they still do Twitch plays. Like, people can control Pokemon and by spamming chat, like left, up, attack, confusion. So I guess that's the newest evolution, right, of online content. Ram says, I bet AI can generate chat users. I bet they can. I bet they can, like, at some point, I might not recognize who the humans are in chat. Pinefellow says, to be honest, most free, non-paid written content on the internet is mostly trash and filler material for ads. Real content that's behind informative and usable for scraping for ChatGPT is behind paywalls and subscriptions, which is true. There are ways to go around paywalls, and what OpenAI did was go around them. And they just, or at the worst case, they subscribe to New York Times for $10 a month, and they scraped all the data off of it with, beyond the paywall. I don't see that being an issue, like a financial burden on the devs. Kapu says, I went to see the Jesus AI once. It was pretty hilarious. 95% of the questions were meant to break the AI. A couple of mischievous prompts went through. And I think that's what it is, right? Whenever humans, we have a new tool, we tinker with it and we try to break it and make it do things it's not intended to do. Which, honestly, I feel like it's a great way to test AI. You put a website there and you just let people pick and prod at it. And then developers just take note, which is probably why, we have access to AIs right now. Because if it was a fully fleshed out product and ready to monetize, like, to the extreme where they're milking like, dollars and change and stuff from us, then they wouldn't give us such easy access. So we are the testing, this is the testing server, and we are the testers. Ram Hook says, does that mean there's going to be even more I'm not a robot tests? And the CAPTCHA tests have been solved by AI. All of it has been solved by AI. In fact, if you didn't know, those I'm not a robot tests doubled as training machine learning. Throughout all these years, they were using that to harvest data to teach their programs how to identify objects. So we were contributing to that at the same time. We weren't a robot, like it served two functions. Now, at this point in time, humans are much worse than AI when it comes to solving CAPTCHAs. And the CAPTCHAs are getting much more elaborate. Remember the first CAPTCHAs? They were a bunch of squiggly words. That shit was really hard. Okay, like that was really hard to comprehend. So sometimes the S just crosses with like the C in such a way, and it looks like a number 8 or a G. I don't know, like. But yeah, we're just not handling that too well. So the fact that those requests, those prompts are still around, I don't actually know. I actually know why, because AI can get beyond that and humans are struggling to get beyond that. So I expect that if you're working for CAPTCHA, the company or whatever, you need to find a new job because that shit ain't gonna fly like for a few more months, okay? Yeah, Pine basically said the same thing as me. AI is getting too good at CAPTCHAs already. I take squiggly words over traffic lights. I'm a person that focuses on images, so I do better with like, oh, how many traffic lights there are? Boom, boom, boom. That's better for me. You put words in that thing, it's more annoying. Anyways, yeah, so what's the big picture? Nowadays, companies are scrambling to block ChatGPT from scraping their website. And the outcome for OpenAI and ChatGPT 4 is yet to be seen. The penalty under law for an offense such as like scraping and reproducing the product and then monetizing it, in this case, is $140,000 per article. Per article. So if ChatGPT 4 copied all this stuff, built it into the brain, because that's what it does, it gets all the information, builds it into its knowledge base. Each article that they pulled off of the New York Times, and I'm going to assume all of it, right? Because if you're going to scrape, you're going to scrape. You're not going to like, oh, I'm just going to pick the most recent 10. You're going to collect everything. Then for every article the New York Times has on their website is going to be $140,000 to OpenAI. And that's why this is not good for OpenAI, because they're either forced to wipe their databases and pay the fine. So I don't know what's going to happen. I'm pretty sure OpenAI is not going to die here. They're not going to let some website as big as the New York Times is to bully them. There's too much financially at stake. But this is only just one publication, right? How about the New York Post? How about the Toronto, I don't know what they call it up there, but the Toronto Times, like, how about every website, every publication, every news site that you can imagine that's being scraped? If this lawsuit goes through, every single company can sue OpenAI. Well, I have a stream where I fiddle with ChatGPT. I could do that. I would be a little afraid of some prompts because I don't know the full extent of ChatGPT. I don't want to like do something I shouldn't do on stream, but perhaps I'll put that down as like an idea. For sure, that's a great idea. Chat GPT for online stream. We'll see about GPT-4. I wonder if I can rent it for a day, you know? There was already some AI art generating 2 weeks ago. Oh yeah, we did that. We did that like on stream before. We generated some art before. Remember, Ram says, remember when fake news was a huge problem? Yeah. Well, fake news is still a huge problem. The AI is going to reiterate what humans say. And with the collected data and different perspectives that we have when it comes to news and topics, and just like basic methodology on how to do something, the AI is going to have a variety of opinions and perspectives, and it's not going to understand what is right, what is more correct. They're just going to give you a summary of what most people say. So if most people are saying the wrong thing, like the sky is not usually blue, it's actually red, and the AI is going to echo that message. I think the concept of a let's play, but AI makes decisions extremely entertaining. Watch a few of those recently. It's really fun to watch. Yeah, Minecraft had ChatGPT 4 combined with another AI to play the game. They're actually really efficient at what they do. That's why they're such a threat. The image generators get boring in 5 minutes, but at least for me, GPT-4 stayed interesting for the past 5 months. That's good. The image generators are pretty lackluster. If you want to make an object, that's fine. But if you want to build a whole scene, that takes a lot of processing power and it takes a lot of time to generate. And the images are just not big enough to be useful at the moment. But it is kind of neat to like create an image with a raccoon on a skateboard, which I have done. All right, well, that is for our first topic. That was New York Times suing OpenAI for scraping their data. If you have any further comments, you can always leave it in the comment section on YouTube and Spotify. But we're going to jump into our second topic, and I'm going to drink some of my tea first. Yeah, if you want to read the copyright law, here it is. It's milk tea without milk. Don't judge. This is the copyright law for the US, talking about the infringement. If someone breaks the copyright, or in this case, the AI, they could be fined up to $150 per article. All right, so our next topic is we want this AI to hallucinate. That's not the original. That's not the real topic. That's not the real title of the second topic. This is upcoming D&D AI to assist DMs in online sessions. So, Dungeons and Dragons. You might be familiar with it. It is a role-playing game. We'll talk about that. Rom Hooks says milk tea, but without the milk. Yeah, you know what? Honestly, I'm just too lazy to put the milk in. And I don't always have milk. So I just go without milk. All right, so what is happening? Researchers at the University of Pennsylvania and Maryland have enlisted OpenAI, again, OpenAI's large language models to help in fantasy role-playing, specifically Dungeons and Dragons. If you're not familiar with Dungeons and Dragons, that is the game that was, I guess, considered the nerdiest thing you can do in the 90s. And it's also been around for longer than that. It was 1972, I think, when Dungeons and Dragons was created. 1972, 1975, somewhere around there. So Dungeons and Dragons, if you're not familiar, is a role-playing game where people play and take on a character that of their choosing, and they go on an adventure, and that adventure is crafted by another player. So a whole bunch of people play together on one team, and the other team is not really necessarily the opponent, but it is a person that can create scenarios to challenge the party of players. And the game is played on paper and pen, where you calculate your statistics and your effectiveness and keep track of your character's inventory and weapons and spells. And then the results of your decisions in the game are determined by dice rolls. So if you want to attack someone, then you have to roll some dice. And if the die is high enough, then your attack goes through, right? So that's basically D&D. And if you want some pop culture references, like we recently had the Dungeons and Dragons movie, right? Now, it doesn't really bring in the pen and paper aspect of Dungeons and Dragons, but that's basically what it is. Medieval fantasy with dragons, dungeons, and other things. And lots of creatures. Another recent pop culture reference is actually in Stranger Things. You know, the game that the kids were playing? They were playing Dungeons and Dragons. The Demogorgon is actually a monster in D&D. So it's been around, and people always gravitate to it because the appeal of D&D is not that you're interacting with some kind of electronic user interface. No, you're actually imagining everything in your mind. And like reading a book, those worlds are really engaging, but it's all in your imagination. And that's why you have so many sheets of paper and documentation, because you can't track everything, but you picture the world in your mind. Let's see what you guys said in chat. I use AI for generating text adventures. It can work pretty well, actually. When Romhook says, when someone starts talking about D&D editions, I get confused. Yeah, because the additions are like just basically new rule sets to make the game more fun or change some of the balance. So it's very much like Magic the Gathering, new additions, new mechanics. It's patching. It's patching for the game. But that's the beauty about Dungeons and Dragons. You don't need to follow any of those rules strictly. So you could be playing house rules, which is cool. It's like, it's as intense as you want the game to be and as chill as you want the game to be. And that's why it has stood the test of time. the interface is your mind and imagination, and the patch notes are whatever you want it to be. Ramhook also says when they apply some specific addition rules to RPG, it tells me absolutely nothing. Well, I think you'd need to know the game inside and out, right? Then it would make some sense. I mean, patch notes require some game knowledge. Turbulent Solace says, would RPGs exist without D&D? Perhaps not. I mean, D&D's bestiary, monster bases has been the inspiring element for a lot of things. So sometimes developers like, hey, let's make a boss for the game. Where are we going to check? They could scroll through the multiple editions of Dungeons and Dragons and look up the monsters. This game is traditionally played in person. But in 2020, with the whole COVID situation, people start adopting D&D online. And in fact, that's when Discord use peaked, because most people were home and they were using Discord to interact. If you're not familiar, Discord is a chat program for the computer. I'm saying this because some people may not know. But yeah, I mean, most of you guys know. So like Discord has had different AIs applied to it and used to facilitate Dungeons and Dragons sessions. One tool is Avery, which helps with information tracking. For example, you could fill out a character sheet, and then you ask the AI, "Oh, how many apples do I have in my bag?" And the AI could tell you how many apples. So there's already AI that can do that, or tools that can do that, but not with the same breadth of what this AI is. So my question is, have you tried D&D over Discord? And how is your experience? I have tried D&D personally on Discord, and it came as a mixed bag. I'll talk more about it, but let's get right into it. So what is this AI that is supposed to improve our D&D sessions, right? It's called Calypso. Calypso stands for Collaborative Assistant for Lore and Yielding Plot Synthesis Objectives. Guys, I just have to say, this is one of those names where people pick a cool name and then they just fill in the words to make that name applicable. They're like, you know what I'm going to call it? Calypso. What does Calypso stand for? Collaborative, assistant. Anyways, but Calypso AI is built on training data, just like every other AI. They train on things and they scrape things. And this AI scrapes things from source books, the actual Dungeons and Dragons source material. Pinefellow says, I play a different kind of pen and paper that nobody outside of Germany knows. There are a lot of pen and paper games. Dungeons and Dragons is the most popular one, but there's certainly more. I mean, I don't like the medieval setting. I would love like a cyberpunk thing. So, yeah. Oh, what is the name of the game, by the way? So yeah, the training data is the actual rule books for Dungeons and Dragons. It includes all the monster logs and the bestiary and all the items that are suggested by the Dungeons and Dragons developers. And the AI can do more than just know the items and the spells and the data. They can help, this new AI can help craft worlds. So, for example, if there is a person that is the DM, the DM is the person that creates the worlds. The DM sets the stage where you're in an open field. The land is barren because of a dragon's recent attack, right? And maybe that person doesn't have enough time to elaborate on the details. That prompt alone, it might be something regular people encounter in their D&D sessions. 1 or 2 sentence length setting. Well, this is where the AI can come in and assist by filling in those details. You could ask the AI about the barn. You could ask the AI about the fence. You could ask the AI about all these other things, and the AI will generate content that suits the scenario. And this content can be approved by the dungeon master. Let's see what you guys said in chat. Ron says, I'm not imagining a super sad scenario where somebody's playing D&D with AI because all friends moved on, don't play anymore. Oh, you're now imagining. Well, that's why we have Discord. It's hard to have friends in real life sometimes because of scheduling, so have friends online. It's not exactly the same, but we all care. Pinefellow says the game that he plays is called The Dark Eye, and it's a German game. Das Schwarzsog. Okay. Shadowrun is pretty cyberpunk-esque. I used to play that too. Shadowrun, yeah. I like the Shadowrun universe. I think that could be really cool. I would love to see more. I would love to see a Shadowrun Dungeons and Dragons game. Ram says, isn't that the Dungeons Master's role? To craft the story, yes. But sometimes filling in the details can be really time consuming. So if you tell the AI to generate, let's say, an alleyway, and you could tell the AI, oh, the players are in a dark alleyway with a gargoyle hanging on the roof, like that's where you could tell the AI that, and they will push out like extra details into the prompt. No, I'm not playing the new PoE season. We're doing also Welcome Bone. We're doing a tech talk on AI. Currently, we're talking about this new upcoming D&D AI that is supposed to dramatically change how people DM. So the AI has some problems. AI has issues where they collect a whole bunch of data, and sometimes when they print out what they know, they make up things that were extrapolated from the truth. So if you say, a simple way to say it is, if you say the chair is heavy, the AI might say, oh, the chair is heavy because it's made of bricks. And then you're like, I didn't specifically say it was made of bricks. All I said was the chair was heavy. This instance is what is called an AI hallucination. People like to call it an error. I would like to call it, an error, but I think hallucination might be, I guess, the the more marketable way to say it. It actually sounds good, right? Hallucinations between humans and AI is a little different. In the AI's case, we're talking about making up information. But this can be beneficial for Dungeons and Dragons because Dungeons and Dragons is a fantasy world where people create storylines dynamically based upon the input from the other players. It requires a lot of on the fly thinking, a lot of improvising, and just a whole lot of creativity. So, this is where the AI's processing speed, the AI's hallucinations can really help in crafting an engaging and entertaining story. So, what have DMs what have the DMs said about this AI? Well, they said it's actually really good. There's a lot of high fidelity descriptions being pumped out by the AI upon request. They could give it very little information. The AI can develop on that. Pine Fellow in chat says, I imagine that AI in games in general will have a huge impact. Also for generating adventures, quests, similar to a dungeon master. Imagine an endless Skyrim where AI delivers unlimited content. But that's where the creativity, we need human creativity to enhance the AI, because AI tends to pump out generic kind of low effort posts, if you will. In some cases they could give a lot of detail, but if they're told to write a story like the knight goes to attack the dragon dies, the kingdom is saved, it gets really simplistic. So having the prompt created by a dungeon master being fed through an AI is the ideal way to do it. Kapu in chat says, I've been living in a simulation for some time now. GPT-4 is capable of doing it. Kapu continues to say, it simulates a world where I could live as a character. The AI handles the other characters. There is a mobile app called AI Dungeon. And AI Dungeon has the same prompts as you would from a DM. You would give a scenario, it would try to remember characters. But what you're describing with GPT-4 sounds a lot more detailed. And I actually want to try that out. So here's an example of what a prompt would look like on Discord. This is a player rolling for a random encounter against an owl bear. And this is the encounter summary. The owl bear is a monstrous combination of owl and bear. Its shaggy coat is covered in feathers and has an owlish head with round eyes. It emits a terrifying screech that announces the death of its prey, and its prey on most creatures within the hunting grounds. It is intelligent but difficult to tame, and is often used as a mount or guard by those living in remote settlements. While its origin remains uncertain, some believe they have always existed. So it goes on to describe the scenario. These three owl bears are likely hunting together as a family, and they are consummate predators. They screech to declare their territory. So I think actually this describes more about the aspects of the beast. But this could be extrapolated into fleshing out a scenario where if you tell the AI, oh, I'm attacking with a fireball, the AI can describe in detail, like, such and such player cast fireball. The feathers of the owl bear were singed, but unfortunately the fireball missed, right? So something like that can be really, really useful with assisting dungeon masters on Discord. Kepu goes on about his experience in the simulation. I lived a scenario where I time travel to 15th century. I bring modern items with me and show them to people. Pinefellow says, I've been thinking about owl bears on skateboards this whole time since you mentioned the raccoon on a skateboard when D&D came up. He continues to say, fireball misses the owl bear, but hits the skateboard and sets it on fire. Like, see, that could be a thing. And it's really cool. But alongside AI, at least for every single time we talked about AI, there is a bad to the AI. There's always a good, but there's always a bad. In this scenario, we are taking advantage of the weaknesses of AI. That weakness, hallucinations, making up facts. It would be great for Dungeons and Dragons where you're creating a fantasy that's dynamic and changing. But when it comes to real world stuff, it's not as good. So that's why this works really well. But, well, take a look at these made up facts. The Calypso team has said the model often makes up facts about monsters that aren't in the source books. Most of these are trivial things that actually help the DM. Sometimes, less often, it hallucinates more drastic facts, like saying frost salamanders have wings, which they don't. And that's where we get into problems. While the AI is capable of making up things, and sometimes it adds to the story and sometimes it doesn't. They could be describing how the owl bear screeches, how it affects, how it startles everyone around them, or how this particular owl bear in our made-up scenario is mute even. But sometimes it just disregards what the original bestiary says. It starts creating things where this monster has wings, when actually that species of monster does not have wings. And then there are other things also that come into play. This AI is using OpenAI and ChatGPT, right? So there are some training safeguards in place that prevent the AI from fully utilizing all that they have to offer in Dungeons and Dragons. For example, something that is often talked about in Dungeons and Dragons is the character race. When you create a character in Dungeons and Dragons, you can pick a human. You could pick an orc. You could pick whatever, a teddy bear, a dragon, anything you basically want. There are some restrictions, but like I said, you could play with your own house rules. But yeah, race plays a big part of it. And because these AIs have these training safeguards, where they don't want OpenAI or ChatGPT to have a racial bias or preconceptions, they put these safeguards in where it actually impacts D&D's ability to talk about dwarves and elves and humans and dragons and orcs and owl bears. So take a look at this. The Calypso team says, for example, the model would sometimes refuse to suggest fantasy races, likely due to efforts to reduce the potential for real-world racial bias. So these safeguards are in place, not exactly for the game, but for real world implementation. And I am not sure if these safeguards can be lowered. But do you think safeguards, AI safeguards, should be removed when the AI is in game mode? Should the AI have a game mode where you can explicitly talk about races? Because if you cannot lift these safeguards, then this AI is going to have immense limitation when engaging into a game. They could be good at talking about the scene and the mountains and scenarios, but they can't talk about the characters in full detail. So I guess the moral question for you is, do you think these safeguards should be lifted in certain circumstances? Let's see what they said. Rom Hook says, it could be useful if the session takes place in some infinitely complex fantasy world, but I don't think D&D and players care about world complexity too much. I think it depends on the group. Some people are very, very intense, and they take their games very, very seriously. I've sat in on a very serious D&D group, and you can't say something goofy. You almost have to play the archetypical warrior, dwarf, and cleric. Dwarf. I said dwarf like it's a class. And that could make the game too predictable. That's something RPG game devs care way too much about. Game devs, a lot of game devs for digital games, there's a lot of restrictions because of resources and time and all that. But when it comes to D&D, you could basically do whatever you want. I saw long ago on Reddit, there was a story about how a group of people were arrested and their friend's body, who recently died, was thrown inside the cell with the rest of the party. In anticipation of being arrested, what the party did was smuggle all the weapons inside the carcass of the body, of their friend's body. They rolled their die, everything worked out, it went undetected. The story told about how the players smuggle all their weapons inside of a corpse, and they were able to break out of the prison. It was something like that it was that story that I saw on Reddit that made me want to try D&D, because I was like, wow, that's so creative. It was funny. It was such a creative solution. Pinefellow says, well, if the AI is able to generate on the fly new strats, a new kind of creature, a variety of an existing one, why not? A human GM game manager couldn't handle that, but AI can. So maybe we should rethink a bit the rules that are applied. Yeah, I think I wouldn't mind that. Like, I don't know D&D that well. I don't know what blue salamanders are capable of. I just know they don't have wings, because that's why I learned. But what if the AI created a scenario where blue salamanders have wings? It's still usable. But for the Dungeons and Dragons purists, that's kind of going to affect how people play the game, how they enjoy the game. I rather it be a little wackier than usual. My first real online Dungeons and Dragons experience, I spent most of my time getting lost. I spent most of my time losing track of where I was. And I kept asking the dungeon master, my friend, oh, where are we? What are we doing? Who are we fighting? Because my attention span had me tabbing out every few seconds, right? As soon as I make my turn, I just tab out. I try and listen, but I don't really try and listen. And then, I mean, he was running the game for 4 people. And I was just dragging everyone down. My other friend was doing the same thing too. There was only one person who was sitting and who was serious. And D&D requires a lot of focus. So this is where like the AI can increase accessibility and the hobby can like grow because the way to play on Discord becomes more accessible. So if we have this AI, I might get back into it. I might play because then I could just ping the AI, be like, what are we doing? Who are we doing? Why are we doing? Yeah. But if the safeguards are lifted or not lifted, I don't know. This might be a problem with implementation. I think we could work around it. But yeah, if you're interested in Dungeons and Dragons, and especially this AI project, I'm gonna post a link here. You could follow the project on GitHub. It'll be in chat. That is the Calypso AI. You can follow the project as it develops. All right. Our third and final topic for today, we'll get into it in a moment. But let me play you a song for my people while I stretch my legs.
You can never sleep in traffic. There's living steady panic. I know 'cause I try acid. Now I see through your habits, just like gadgets. You tell me with the 2 hands, I'm too bad. Wonder what you think's I like. Need me to get your bills paid. That's what you said. I guess I'm just too fake for that. So sit down, listen, think for a minute. Though it might be hard, 'cause you're uneducated. Break down, face it, breathe for a
Okie dokie. All right, so we're going to get into our final topic, and that is ISPs against itemized contract labels. So ISP stands for Internet Service Provider. And what is happening is currently in the United States, the internet companies are expected and will be required to share contract details in the form of a label, basically itemizing every single thing they're charging people for. The problem exists across the board with all providers. They tell you a price at the beginning, and the price dramatically changes throughout the contract. And every single time it increases. In fact, my experience with the ISP, I have every month, my internet bill goes up. It goes up like 60 cents, right? Maybe $1, maybe 60 cents. But for no explanation. There's no reason. They just like, oh, here's the price. I'm like, why is it up? And then when you call them, they're like, oh, it was a mistake. Then they bring the price back down. But in order to contact the ISPs, my internet provider, they put you on hold for over an hour. right? If you're like, oh, it's a billing issue, they put you on hold for a long time. And they do that so you don't try to adjust your price. What's the price of my contract? I'm not going to talk about that, but it does go up every month. So I guess my question is this happening to like anyone else? Does your internet bill go up every month? And I know you guys are across the planet, like some of you in the States, some of you in Europe. Rom says, I mean, does your contract allow the price to change? Under certain conditions, yes. But ultimately, you need to know why you're being charged for such things, why they're going up in price. And this is why the FCC, Federal Communications Commission, is trying to push, or the government Congress is trying to push the FCC to force these labels in place. Take a look. This is what the label looks like. It looks very much like one of those nutritional facts things on the side of food packages, but it itemizes things by monthly price, additional charges. It has a statement on your download speed, your upload speed, your latency. All this kind of put in place so that you have a one-stop shop, I guess. I guess that's the saying. A one-stop shop. Yeah, they put in carbs. You have 47 grams of carbohydrates. They have a one label which identifies all the criteria for your contract. And this is what will be rolling out because we need it. We need people to know. We need people to care and be aware of what they're being charged. Because the companies, if they charge everyone a few dollars more by the end of the year, even though the contract is for a year, then what's the point of the contract if they could charge whatever they want? The internet is a thing that's ultra important. And if you do not have internet in some states, in some places, it puts you at a severe disadvantage. So no one likes a person who trades and every time you go to trade, they just increase the price, right? That's never a good feeling. Kepu says, I have a 1 gigabit optic fiber and it's always $40 a month. No changes ever. Where are you? 1 gigabit. We're going to talk about that. Pinefellow says, sounds a bit to me that they're allowed to just change the price. Yeah. They're not allowed, but they do it. Because once you say, I'm being charged too much, how come this is different from last month? They immediately revert it. Because they know they're doing illegal stuff. So they make you wait on call for a long time. But when you do talk to them and the session's being recorded, they just, let me fix that for you and change it. This ISP is making me fat. It's true. This ISP makes you fat and your wallet thin. Kepu says, in Finland, we actually have a law that rules an internet connection as a human right. If you can't afford a connection, a government will pay for you to have a basic connection, the cheapest possible. That's great. That's what we need. Like, I think that's really nice. And I'm glad that Finland takes care of it. But I don't know how it is in other places in the world. Like, I know the US is like this. The US is terrible with this. You can't get anything past the ISPs because they have planned all of this toxic money scraping behavior, this exceptional greedy behavior well in advance. And they are super deceptive with how they make money off of the user. Take this, for example. This is Verizon. This is the Verizon page probably today. It's probably the same today, but I checked Verizon Internet yesterday, and this is what they said. Plans start at $25 a month, which sounds amazing. And then you look at the fine print. There are very specific details, and that means if you get a mobile plan, wait, so that means it's not 25 unless I get a mobile plan. They say things such as fast and reliable, the price is the price, guaranteed. The price is the price, guaranteed. Are you sure? This is what that says. Price guaranteed for 2 to 4 years, depending on internet plan. For Verizon home internet households who have not subscribed to VHI within the last 9 days, applies to the then current base monthly, blah, 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 blah. It's a freaking paragraph saying why it doesn't apply to you. It depends on your internet plan. Which is, don't say it if it's not guaranteed, right? I promise to buy you a pony this year, but then the asterisk is like, oh, the pony, My Little Pony. I'm not talking about a real pony, or only if you do well in school. But I don't say that outright. It's pretty awful. What's up, Eddie? Colonel Wolf says, if you're poor, you get library internet. Library internet is better than no internet. Kepu says, you pretty much need a connection to live a normal life in Finland. Bank affairs and all that needs a connection. Colonel Wolf says, Verizon 5G home internet. I use T-Mobile 5G home internet. J-Bone says, I pay $210 a month for 5 gigabit fiber, but initially start at $170. Damn. That's insane. Curious. Why do you need so much? Are you running a server? Why do you need so much bandwidth? You're too lazy to call? And that's the thing. That's what they're banking on. They're not banking on that people are lazy. Well, they're banking on that, but they're also banking on the time investment. If your call to Verizon takes an hour, but only to save $2, are you going to make that call? No. So they keep inching it up. And that's how they make the extra money. Oh, you're mining. Oh, okay. That makes sense. All right. Well, that makes sense. I mean, it's a business expense. You like my apartment? Nice and quaint? Yeah. I do too. I love this apartment. I love my chair that has no shadows. Yeah. Eddie Sensei in chat says, I was thinking about getting fiber, but I eat a solid 30 grams of it every morning. Well played. Kepu says, we have taxes, magistrate affairs, healthcare, and pretty much everything online now. So no need to send annoying paper letters anywhere. That's true. I mean, in the States, we're pretty much paperless. But honestly, like, having things on paper is pretty nice, especially for contracts, right? Contracts that should itemize everything. It's just like looking at this is ridiculous. Going back to this, right? This is basically having it on paper again. So when signing up for internet service, what are some deceptive things that they do? Well, from my experience and for many others, they always sell you a low price at the beginning. For the first 3 months, you get $15 off. Then for the rest of your contract, you're paying those $15. But then every 6 months, you get $10 off. And then every 8 months, or the first 8 months, you have to pay, you pay $10 less. So then your base price, your day one price is really cheap, right? It looks like $40, but after 6 months, it jumps to like $80. After that, it jumps to like $140. The money keeps going up, but that's because of the contract, the way they structure things. And they have everything expiring at different times to increase the confusion. And it's so hard to keep track of things unless you have it written down and stated. But even once you sign the agreement, they make it so confusing that it's hard to even argue because you already signed the agreement. There are other discounts offered. When I was switching service, because I lost internet service for a period of time, like a year ago. When I was switching service, I had to talk to the representative, and she said, "Oh, you're gonna get 20% off, like $20 off every month." And I'm like, "Oh, how? Like, why?" She's like, "Oh, I'm gonna send you the details after. I'll send you the details in an email." And I'm like, "Okay, all right, cool." I was like, "All right, I'm waiting for the email." She's like, "Oh, okay, I'm still like processing it, right? Just make sure, just sign it there, and then I'll send you the email." I'm like, "Okay." And I was like waiting for her to send the email, right? Because she said she's sending me a discount, right? And then it was socially awkward. And then I'm just like, "Hold on, let me think for a second." And then she's like, "Okay." I'm like, "Hey, did you send the email yet?" She's like, "Oh, yeah, it's still processing." She fucking lied to me that it's still processing because she didn't want to send me the discount. She did send me the discount after, like she said, but the discount didn't apply to me. The discount applied only in very specific circumstance. If I served in the military. That's how they get you. So after you sign it, she sends it immediately, right? So what I did was, I tried to argue the fact, and they said that's not how we do business. I had to call them back and bring up another ticket. That's not how we do business. I'm sorry, Charlotte. Your plan will be adjusted. And that's it. And in other cases, they ask you to get reimbursed. Once you prove that you're qualified for a discount, then they'll give you the money back. But they take the money first. So these are like the things that I had to deal with when signing up for my plan. They also do things like communicate bandwidth in terms of megabit, not megabytes, megabit. That's why earlier when Bone says, J-Bone says that they pay every month for 5 gigabit fiber. Is it gigabit or gigabyte? Because the difference between a gigabit and gigabyte is 8 times. Because everything is measured in this day and age by megabytes and gigabytes, not bits. So when you measure in bits, you're dividing by 8. So when they say you're paying $40 for a 40 gigabit connection, you're actually getting a 5 megabyte connection. It's divided by 8. Eddie says, ma'am, if you would like to stay on the line and take a brief survey, we would greatly appreciate it. I gave a gigabit is 5,000 megabytes. It's still a lot, yeah. But yeah, it's still a lot. Wait, well, no, that's gigabytes and megabytes. Yeah. But when it's, so does your contract say gigabit or gigabyte? That's where they get you, because the abbreviation is the same 2 letters, MB. But for megabits, it is M lowercase b. And for megabytes is M uppercase b. And I know that how they do things here in the States is like they always sell you in bits. You know, it's like if I gave you $1, oh, let me give you 100 pennies. I'll give you 100 pennies. Or $1. You know, they purposely use a smaller denomination to trick people to feeling like they get more. Colonel Wolf says they pickpocket everyone, but are nice enough to return the money when caught. Yeah, exactly. And that's the problem. So especially when people who are not familiar, like some of my relatives who are not as familiar, like older generations who are not familiar with tech, like they have to deal with, 8,000 megabits sounds like a lot. No, it's not a lot. You know, it's 8 megs a second. It's not a lot. Or no, it's 1,000 megs a second. That's actually a lot. But you know, I'm saying like it's just confusing. So another thing that they do is by disguising how they charge people and what they're offering, they can blame the government for some of these charges. If you call them, they will say, "Oh, why is my bill going up?" They would say, "Oh, these it's because the government has these mandated fees." Yeah, but that's not why the bill is going up. The government does have mandated fees. And by not explicitly stating in the contract the divide between what they're charging and what the government is charging, and not putting to paper the details of a contract all in one place, it makes it hard for people to track who they're paying to and what they're paying for. So the FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, implemented these broadband labels, these nutritional facts for your internet connection. It forces providers to put a monthly price, the additional charges, the speeds, the data caps, which is often never talked about. I don't have a data cap, but they don't cap it, they throttle it. There's so many different, just because you change the terminology, it becomes classified as a different thing. Additional charges for data, and all this information just needs to be displayed to consumers. And that's what the label will do. Currently, the label is not in place because they are still going through some review. But if these things go into place, then hopefully our ISPs will actually commit to what they said. So I asked you if you saw an increase in your monthly bill over time. But now I'm asking, is your ISP transparent with what they offer? Do they keep their promise with what they offer? Do they tell you what they offer and do they keep to their promise? Or do they throttle you? Here's the ironic thing. I used to have Verizon and then I went somewhere else and I went back to Verizon. The first time I had Verizon, they lied about the speed. They kept throttling me. And I didn't know how to navigate their system. I was pretty young. So they kept throttling and it was infuriating because we were paying like a higher price and I was barely getting functional internet. Colonel Wolf says T-Mobile is throttled after 50 gigs of data per month. I don't notice on my connection if they throttle at all, which is good. 50 gigs of data per month. Like, that's mobile though. That's a lot of data for mobile. But if you're using your mobile also as your home ISP, downloading, for example, Starfield is going to be 120 gigs on launch. And that is a lot of data. This is T-Mobile 5G home internet. And they still have bandwidth data limitations. Do you know if it's, is it because of your choice or is it because of your region? I'm sorry, I was getting the T-Mobile part mixed up. I mean, as of right now, my experience with Verizon, still awful, but they kept to their promise of the speed. They occasionally try that price jacking thing, but it's like at some point I need to call them again and waste my time and lower the price again. Colonel Wolf says, I don't know. I always go over the data cap, but I still get 200 megabytes a second. Okay, that's good. Good for you. Good for you. I think maybe T-Mobile isn't as toxic with it. I know Verizon is fast, but one of the most toxic ones. They cheat you every chance they get. So, with this new law, this new ruling coming into place, what are the ISPs doing? They don't want to tell you the truth. They don't want to print out all the conditions of your contract in one digestible format. So they lobby. They have a bunch of representatives for the ISPs go and file adjustments to the ruling and complaints to the FCC to stop the label from being produced. Their reason, their excuse is that the label makes it too confusing. ISP representatives have said would add unnecessary complexity and burdens to the label for consumers and providers, and could result in some providers having to create many labels for any given plan. They're basically saying by adding more things on this label, let me see if I could get it. Adding more things and creating this label would make it too complicated for users to digest. Oh, really? Too complicated. If that is complexity, then I do not know what their terms of service is. Honestly, I'll show you that, but this is what the FCC said. FCC said, a provider that opts to combine all its monthly discretionary fees with its base monthly price may do so and list that total price. In that case, the provider need not itemize those fees in the label. The companies are saying, we don't want to list every fee. And then the court is saying, you could just add it up and just tell us the final price. It's something as simple as that. It's kind of like when you're going into the restaurant and they're like, "Oh, we don't want to itemize the receipt because you order like food and you want to so if you itemize, like, let's say the meal you had, you itemize the salt, right? Oh, it's like 10 cents for the salt and then 15 cents for the pepper, and then the use of the plates and the sauce and the meat and the rice, and you itemize, and then the court is saying, what are you doing? Why are you breaking it down like that? You could just say steak, like a medium steak, 8-ounce. You could combine them. So they have this super poor excuse to hide the facts of the contract, saying that it would be too complicated for people to read. Oh, really? Too complicated. Look at Verizon's TOS. This is Verizon's TOS. This is complicated. Not some label that you can see that summarizes your contract. And this is still going. This is the TOS. I cannot believe how long this shit is. It's incredibly long and it's incredibly complicated, but they expect us to be able to consume this and to follow the TOS, and they can't be bothered with something as simple as this. Anyways, the whole purpose of this label is to clearly communicate to customers that they are offering a certain price and a certain speed. And with this label being a future standard to how people purchase broadband connections or internet connections, then we could more easily compare the details of a contract. So yeah, I hope that this comes into play and they stop cheating me on my internet bill. I think that about wraps it up for topic 3, and that's our show for the week. If you have any questions, let me get above the credits. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me on social media. Hi, Cyberdog. What's up? What do I do if I'm hungry? I don't know, you don't ask ISPs for food because they'll cheat you. Yeah, so after this, we're going to roll into a gaming show. But yeah, thank you guys for joining me in this technical with Sharlit Elise. This is the new format that I'll be using. Can I do this? I want to be able to do this. Yeah. So we're going to roll into D4. As usual, this show will be pushed to YouTube and Spotify. If you have not followed the channel and you like to support my work, do follow the channel. You can check out the links in the chat and below the video. If you really like the work that I do, feel free to share this content with friends and people and family and all, because that really helps the show. If you have feedback on how to improve the show, let me know. And I will try to work things out. So the new layout will be ironed out within the next few weeks. We're going to have some minor logo changes. But for the most part, everything is going to stay technical. Technical. There we go. Ba-dum. Fire my producer? No. I am the producer. I am the camera person. I am the writer. I am the researcher. I am the artist. I am the videographer. I'm the post-production. I'm the social media manager. I'm the archivist. I'm the I'm the everything. You get it. I was gonna put a joke. I was gonna put a joke in the credits that said, "Dog number 4, Charlotte Elise." You know, like you know how they do that in movies. I love that. But then I felt like it would just kind of like ruin the whole thing.